What is up? We are back with another episode of the First Down Football Podcast. Today on the agenda, the playoff predictions. We're going to go AFC to NFC the first round, give some in-depth opinions on our predictions for each game coming up this weekend. Very excited. How you guys doing?
Great. Doing good, man. Talk these games. Got some good ones going on this weekend.
At the end of the podcast, we'll talk about the David Coley firing and then get to another voice memo. But let's just get right into it. I want to start it off with the Raiders, Bengals, whoever wants to lead with that.
That's a tough one. My immediate thoughts were that the Bengals wouldn't be able to handle the Raiders up front. And I wanted to pick the Raiders, and that was my rationale for doing it. But then I looked at the game earlier this year, and Joe Mixon ran the ball well, not crazy well, but they won by almost 20 points, and Joe Burrow had 150 yards. So they can do it. And I think the Raiders, as good as they are offensively, especially with Waller back, they had Waller in that game against Cincinnati. I trust the Bengals defense. They've done it before. You'd rather bet on somebody that you do know rather than somebody you don't. And we know that the Bengals have done it before. So they're also I know the Raiders are playing well, but the Bengals are also red hot offensively. Their offense is a different offense than the Raiders saw 2 months ago. So I'm picking Cincinnati.
I agree. I think I'm also going with the Bengals as well. I think it would be the most Bengals outcome if they were to be upset this weekend by the Raiders with how inconsistent of a team they are. The lack of experience in the playoffs. But, you could say the same thing about the Raiders team. But I think what it boils down to is that the rest that Cincinnati got, obviously they didn't play most of their starters in Week 18. So they're well rested heading into this game, whereas the Raiders are coming off that long overtime game against the Chargers. So I think the Raiders will put up a good fight, but at the end of the day, I think that Cincinnati and that offense will be too much for the Raiders to keep up with the Bengals in that game.
I think not that I'm not saying this was your guys' whole reasoning, but I do think the rest factor is just a tad bit overrated. Sometimes a lot of people will lean towards picking a team that had the bye or rested their starters or something. I think it can go both ways. Sometimes, they lost the momentum. They took a week off. Sometimes, they rested and they're coming full to go. But I'm going with the Raiders here. I do think the Bengals are the better team. But in my opinion, everyone's riding super high on the Bengals right now, which, I don't disagree. They're playing great football. They just beat the Chiefs. And they're really fun to watch, right? Burrow, Chase, Mixon, Higgins, everyone loves watching those guys. I think everyone that doesn't have their team in the playoffs is probably rooting for the Bengals to go far here. So I think, in my opinion, everyone is a tad bit oblivion, or the people are forgetting that they are an inconsistent team. Now, they haven't been inconsistent in the last 4 weeks. They're hot, but I think people are caught up in wanting them to win, and the fact that they just beat the Chiefs, and they're not really remembering the negatives to the Bengals, which there are negatives. Now, once again, I do think they are better than the Raiders, but the Raiders, they're also playing good football. I think earlier in the year when they got killed by the Bengals, they also just got killed by the Chiefs. They also just lost to the Giants, and that was their 3-week span right there. So that's not how they're playing right now. So I think the Raiders, like we said, they win the games that they're not supposed to win. And I haven't seen really anyone pick the Raiders besides maybe one person. So that just kind of makes me want to pick the Raiders even more.
Yeah, I get that. The public eye is definitely towards the Bengals. Like you said, if people are they don't have a horse in the race, they're going to root for the Bengals. Kind of makes sense. They're fun to watch. So I get that.
Yeah, I think there's always something crazy that happens. Some big upset. I think this would be one of the bigger upsets, just because, like I said, nobody's picking it. But okay, well, let's go into something that might be a quick one: Chiefs versus Steelers. All I'm going to say is 77-3 Chiefs. That's it.
77. That probably won't be too far off, man. One thing I want to touch on this when it comes to this game is what Ben Roethlisberger said at the press conference. I don't know what people wanted him to say. We're going to come out here and beat the Chiefs. The one thing I do think that he shouldn't have said, though, is when he said that we have no chance. If anyone from my team comes out, especially my starting quarterback, and says we have no chance, it's gonna make me feel pretty bad. You know what I mean? So that's the one thing I disagree on. But yeah, I don't think that the Steelers are gonna have to play a near perfect game in order to beat the Chiefs. So I'm taking the Chiefs by I would say about 20 points.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident the Chiefs will win too. I think Ben was being a little sarcastic when he said that. And we don't know. He could have said, oh, I'm going to go tell in the locker room at practice, before practice, I'm going to go tell the media, we got no shot.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I just think it's going to be so tough for them to just hold Mahomes and that offense down. There's a defense that can do it. It's Pittsburgh, but you also have to remember there's another side of the ball, and I don't trust the Steelers to move the ball offensively either. I just don't see a way they can win this game.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm willing to put some money on the Chiefs just taking the win. I don't know about the spread though. I joke about this being a blowout, but it's playoffs never really go that way. I do think it'll be 10-point game, maybe 13-point game, a little closer than people think. But I do think the Chiefs are taking it. As for the Big Ben thing, I don't know. I think a little bit. I think they know how much of an underdog they are. But I also think they know, it's football mentality that, they know they have a chance. They know it's the NFL playoffs, and Big Ben knows damn well it's the playoffs and stuff happens. So I think he was saying that for a little entertainment for the media, and maybe to trick the Chiefs into thinking, he's not too confident in it. But I think it was just a funny little thing. But I think they know that, they can compete here. But I don't think they really will too much. But what's the other game? The Bills and the Patriots. Tough game. Whoever wants to lead off with that one.
I'm personally torn when it comes to this game. I think experience goes a long way when it comes to playoff experience, and definitely home field advantage as well, especially a team like the Bills. Bills Mafia definitely shows out. So Josh Allen, he has some playoff experience. Mac Jones, on the other hand, doesn't. But then obviously the coaching experience goes to Bill Belichick. So I think at the end of the day, the home field advantage is going to go a long way here. I'm going to go side with the quarterback that's at least been in the playoffs and experienced a playoff game before. I think that the Bills, with how close they were last season, I think they're hungry to get back to where they once were and potentially, get a game against the Chiefs again. So I'm going to take the Bills in a close game, very close game.
I got Patriots. I think they're going to take the air out of the ball and take the air out of the stadium, to be honest with you. I trust Bill Belichick in a matchup with the team he's seen twice already. And I think going into that second game when they played New England, it was tough for him to really craft a game plan against Buffalo's passing offense in terms of what they would do against New England's defense because of the first game that they played. But I think he actually has 60 minutes of film on their passing offense now, and I trust him to put together something to stop Josh Allen. And to be honest, if the Patriots can keep it close and keep the game on the ground, that's going to be the key to them winning any game, because I don't trust them playing from behind. But I trust that they can do that. And I don't think the Bills can stop their rushing offense. I really don't. I know people are talking about the Bills defense being really good. It's been good all year. I think the loss of Trey White has hurt them a little bit in the secondary. And it's made them a little bit more susceptible overall defensively. It's still good, but I trust the Patriots to run the ball effectively. They get behind, they have no shot, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, I think. I've actually heard a lot of people there's two people. One person thinks it's going to be a close game, and the other one thinks that the Bills are going to blow them out. But at least those are the opinions I've heard. I think it'll be a close game, but I'm leaning towards the Bills. I think. The weather does give me a little bit of worry if it goes anything like it did between the first week the first game they played each other.
Yeah. But
I think that could obviously the weather's going to benefit the Patriots, but I think the fact that they've already had that type of game could benefit the Bills, whereas they know how to game plan that more. And their defense, I think, is being overlooked by a lot of people because the only thing people want to talk about is Josh Allen. Their offense is a little inconsistent, but they also, they have a very high ceiling. You don't know what you're going to get, but they also have the stability of a very good defense, who I think can come up big in this game. And and once again, if Patriots take the W, it wouldn't surprise me. It's Bill Belichick, but I also view rookie quarterback in the playoffs. You never know what that but I think the Bills are talented, and I think they're going to go further than people think.
Yeah, I get that. I think that the only way the Patriots do win is if they take the ball out of Mac Jones' hands, which I think they will. At least they'll try to at the beginning of the game, and I think they'll be successful in running the ball. So I trust them.
Yeah, I think if the Bills can have any success in stopping the run game, then yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely dependent on game script. Like Max said, if the Patriots get to an early lead, they get the run game going. Mac Jones doesn't have to throw the ball much, then I think the pass can get the win. But I think if the Bills make Mac Jones beat them, make him pass the ball, I think that's when they get in trouble and they would win the game.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go over to the NFC side, and I want to start it off with probably the biggest toss-up game, in my opinion, the Cardinals versus the Rams. Whoever wants to lead off with that.
It is a coin flip, I think, at least. I was making my playoff prediction video earlier, and I was looking at the game, and both teams have just so many question marks, but I think the Rams have less. That's where my mind is coming in. Obviously, home field advantage is going to play a factor, I think. I mean, last week against the 49ers, there wasn't really home field advantage, I guess. But I trust Matt Stafford to figure some things out. I don't really think the Cardinals have any answer in the secondary for the Rams' passing attack. They certainly didn't when they played earlier on in the year. But I really don't think they'll have enough. They'll have what it takes to stop Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, and Odell. Yeah, I just can't bring myself to fully believe that the Cardinals will be able to. In order to win the game, I think they're going to have to score well over 20 points because I can see the Rams doing the same thing. And people will forget that when the Rams played the Cardinals earlier on in the year, they had DeAndre Hopkins for the majority of the game. He missed the last drive in the fourth quarter. He's still a factor. They've yet to play this defense without DeAndre Hopkins. And I was watching Kurt Warner's video on the Cardinals offense and how it's been playing the past couple of weeks. It relies a lot on those guys winning outside. And A.J. Green's doing a good job, but the game he focused on was against Dallas. And one of my big things all year is Dallas secondary can make plays, but they're just so undisciplined. And I'll talk about that when we talk about that game. But if a team's going to attack them deep, they're going to struggle. And I think Dallas' defense being bad was more of a part of that. So I don't really think we've seen a true Cardinals win yet. I mean, they didn't look good against Seattle last week, especially on the defensive end. So I trust the Rams more than I trust the Cardinals in this case.
Yeah, I agree. I think Matthew Stafford has obviously been waiting his whole career to be in this position, to be able to compete and, be able to make a Super Bowl run. So I think he's going to thrive in this, in his first game with a real opportunity. And I think they get the job done. I think my opinion would definitely change, and I would think I would take the Cardinals in an upset if DeAndre Hopkins was going to play for this game. I anticipated him coming back and being able to return for the playoffs, but I guess just wasn't ready. I think that missing DeAndre Hopkins, they're going to need some kind of playmaker to step up in the Arizona Cardinals offense. I think that their issues is only going to get worse if James Conner's unable to play. Like you said, there's more question marks on the Arizona side of the football. J.J. Watt, he's limited in practice, but he's probably not going to be able to play for this game. So I think the Rams take care of business and get the job done with the win.
Yeah, I was about to ask, is J.J. Watt playing or not?
As far as I know, he was very limited in practice today, so I don't think he might give it a shot. But if he plays, I don't see him playing a significant role.
I think he probably will give it a shot. I just don't know how good he'll be.
Yeah. Well, this, like I said, it's the hardest one to pick, in my opinion, and it's a complete toss-up, and I'm least confident in this pick. And any other pick I'm way more confident in. But I think I view both teams obviously have a lot of question marks, like you said. And I do think the Rams have the edge in coaching, which plays a factor. I don't trust Cliff, but I also don't know how much trust I have in Stafford, even though I'm a huge Matthew Stafford fan. I'm honestly a Rams fan for the next 3 or 4 weeks if they're still in it, now that my Colts are gone. I really want Matthew Stafford to succeed, but I'm also not oblivious to what he's done this year. I mean, he has his games where it's like, what are you doing? 2 or 3 picks a game. And I really feel like if he has one of those 2 or 3 picks in in the playoffs, one of those 2 or 3 pick games. That you can't do that in the playoffs, and if he does that this week, I don't know how much success they're going to be able to have. So I think when Max was talking, he's definitely making me even less confident in this pick. But I'm going to take the Cardinals here. I think it's kind of a similar one to the Raiders, where I see everybody picking the Rams, so it makes me not want to. But I don't have as much confidence in the Rams as a lot of people have. I mean, I've seen a lot of picks where the Rams are in the NFC Championship, and I will say that wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to come off here kind of as a Rams hater or a Rams disbeliever, but I think it goes one of 2 ways. I mean, they could totally be two good Stafford games and go to the NFC Championship. But if Stafford craps the bed at any point here, it could be rough for them. So as much as I want Stafford to have a good game and get a few wins, I think the Cardinals will surprise people, even though they haven't looked good besides the Cowboys game in the last 6 weeks. And that's just something that, to me, it makes it make less sense for them to win. But that's literally what the NFL is. So I think it makes less sense for the Cardinals to win, and it makes me want to pick them more. And I think that the Rams, failing is a little bit more likely than people think.
Yeah, they're always tough. So I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona, pulled off the upset.
Yeah, it's any time you play a divisional opponent again, it's tough.
That too, yeah. And I don't know how much it really matters, because the Cardinals were a different team the first time they played the Rams, but I feel like their win against the Rams was a lot more dominant than the Rams was against the Cardinals. I don't know how much that matters though, because it's kind of a new Cardinals team, but that was something too. But let's go into the Bucs and Eagles game. I think I'll just lead off with that. I think it's not as easy to pick as the Chiefs Steelers in my opinion, but I cannot see Tom Brady going down first round. And I remember talking about who could the Eagles beat 2 weeks ago when we were talking about it on the podcast, and I said I could see them beating maybe the Cowboys. But I said if they get a matchup like the Buccaneers, I think they're screwed, because they're a top 2 or 3 rushing team in the league, and that's what they do. And the Bucs are definitely the best run defense out there. So I don't think they'll have too much success there. And I think Tom Brady in the first round, really, I can't see a loss there.
I say this is probably my most confident pick. I'm locking the Buccaneers this week. I'd be absolutely shocked if they lost to this Eagles team. No hate to the Eagles. I think they have a bright future. The future is definitely bright for the Eagles, but teams like the Jets and Jaguars have more wins against playoff teams than the Eagles have this year. Eagles have 0 playoff wins and 0 wins against any team above .500. So I don't think they've proven themselves enough to allow me to pick them over Tom Brady in the playoffs. So I'm pretty confident that the Bucs take care of business and get the job done at home.
Yeah, I said 2 weeks ago the Eagles could beat anybody but the Packers, and I still think it's true. I still do think they can beat the Buccaneers, but I do think this is the worst matchup they could have possibly gotten in the first round.
100%.
And to be honest with you, I probably would have picked them over anybody else, but I don't think they'll be able to run the ball. And if they can't run the ball, that offense is just dysfunctional. So I have to pick the Bucs. As much as I don't want to, as much as I want to stay true to my word, I can't do it. I have to pick the Bucs.
Hypothetically speaking, Eagles Rams. You're taking the Eagles over the Rams.
Yeah.
Wow.
That one would be interesting to me. I mean, I really don't believe too much in the Eagles, like I said last 2 weeks, but and they have had the chance to beat a playoff team a lot of times on their schedule, and they haven't done it. They haven't really. The best win they have is maybe the Falcons, something like that. But that just where I was saying how many question marks the Rams have, that would kind of be a fun matchup for me. I think I might lean towards that. But.
I mean, you think about it. If they play Dallas, it's another divisional game. Those games can go either way.
100%.
Arizona has question marks. I'm pretty sure they played San Fran earlier on in the year.
Yeah, that was 17-11 San Fran.
That's right, yeah. That was really early in the year. So, I mean, you don't know, but I don't know. I think this is the worst matchup they could have gotten. And even if they do somehow win, they'll play Green Bay, and they're not going to beat Green Bay. So it sucks. I would have liked to see them play another team because I think they would have had a legit chance to upset them.
All right, let's move into the last game. I'll go last here, but Cowboys versus the 49ers. I've seen a lot of upset picks here. What do you guys got?
This one is definitely the toughest one for me. I'm still torn on it right now. Part of me really wants to go with the Niners, but I think the one thing that's pushing me away from picking them fully is Jimmy Garoppolo. Not even just because Jimmy G, but because he has that thumb injury. He's obviously not 100%. He stepped up big time last week. He did. I'll give him credit. Laid down the stretch in that Rams game. He allowed them to be put in a position to even be in the playoffs right now. So all credit to him for last week's performance. But I think if he's put in a position where he needs to win late in the stretch against the Cowboys and they force Jimmy Garoppolo to beat them, I don't think they get the job done. But if they can get the run game going, get the play action game going, put less pressure on Jimmy G, I think that would give them a better chance of pulling off the upset. But the Cowboys have been a pretty consistent team on both sides, especially towards the end, the late stretch of the season. So I'm going to take the Cowboys to take care of business in this game.
Yeah, 49ers have been a super popular upset pick. My thing with the Cowboys has been all year they struggle against teams who stretch them down the field. And unless you really believe in Jimmy Garoppolo, the 49ers can't do that. Like they can't stretch you down the field like Vegas did or Kansas City did or Arizona.
Arizona.
They can't stretch you down the field like those guys can. And I mean, maybe if the 49ers get the run game going, they keep it close. But at the same time, the 49ers offense kind of prides themselves on taking the ball down the field, taking off time, and making the offense work to get the ball down the field. But the Cowboys are an offense that can strike at any time. I think that's going to go overlooked. I don't think the Cowboys will really have any trouble moving the ball down the field. I can't bring myself to pick against the Cowboys again.
Yeah, this is. I mean, I'll keep up with my consistent logic here. Something that everyone's picking is the Niners, and it makes me want to pick the Cowboys. I can't help it, but I think people forget about the Cowboys because 2 weeks ago, before they lose to the Cardinals, they're getting so much like NFC Championship hype that this team's going far, and then they lose to the Cardinals, and everyone's like, "Yeah, they're first round exits." It's like, what? I mean, you can lose. They lost to a playoff team. I mean, it wasn't that bad of a loss in my opinion. But the one thing that does make me worry, I guess, is you never know what Dallas offense you're going to get. And I guess they really don't have too many good wins this year. I mean, the best wins are the Patriots and the Chargers, which were both in the first 5 or 6 weeks. And they did play the Buccaneers really close, which also, even though that's week 1, like I still can't forget that because they really impressed me there. But I guess really they've had 2 opportunities, which is the Chiefs and the Cardinals, to beat a playoff team, and I guess the Raiders too, and they didn't do that. So that makes me nervous a little bit. But how dominant they've been against like the Washington and the Eagles the last few weeks, and just overall like how their roster looks, it's just hard for me to pick against them. And it sucks because I've been hyping up the 49ers for the last 4 or 5 weeks, saying that they can go far. Would not surprise me if they could reach like the NFC Championship and pull off a couple of upsets. But I think the fact that everyone else is picking that, it kind of makes me not want to roll with that. But yeah, I just think that people think that I don't think people remember like the Niners are really not the most consistent team either. I mean, when they lost to the Titans 20-17. I mean, they were getting a lot of hype before that, and I was agreeing with that. But they lost to the Titans, and everyone was, realizing like, okay, they're not like this super top tier team. And I do think the Cowboys are. Dak makes me nervous. I don't know how he'll be. So this is definitely going to be a good game in my opinion. But I'm rolling with the Cowboys just because people are forgetting about them in my opinion, and I didn't end up going with it, but if the Cowboys, if they win, they're probably going to play the Buccaneers second round. So that's another interesting game to me, and we'll talk about that if we get to that. But if the Cowboys reach the NFC Championship, I don't think I would be surprised because I think they can be that good. They can be that good. Now, I don't know if they will, but they can be.
They definitely do. I think outside of Green Bay, has the highest ceiling out of any playoff team, not just actually Green Bay and Tennessee. I was going to say in the whole NFL, but Green Bay and Tennessee, yeah, they can do a lot. I do want to say the loss of Michael Gallup I think will be a factor, but Cedric Wilson.
I was going to say,
I think he, and on the other side of the bracket, Tyler Boyd. I think they're both due for big games this week. I'm excited to see them. I think those guys are going to win on the inside. I'll be looking, especially the Bengals game. I think Tyler Boyd's going to be involved.
I can see that for sure.
Okay, so we are now going to give our Super Bowl predictions, which team's going to come out of the AFC and which team will come out of the NFC, and then we'll get to our voice memo at the end. So I want to start off with who we think is coming out of let's go NFC first, whoever wants to lead off with that.
I can go first. I think both conferences I have pretty basic picks, but NFC I have Green Bay. It was my preseason pick. I'm sticking to it. The only team I really could see upsetting them, I mean, Tampa Bay, it's hard to bet against them. But I think if the Rams figure everything out, the Rams could beat them. It's a big if, but I think the Rams could. I mean, Dallas maybe, but I am very confident in the Packers. I think this is the best Packers team we've seen since they won the Super Bowl 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think you got a good point there. I mean, undefeated in Lambeau, no one has beaten that team at Lambeau this year, and they control their destiny throughout Lambeau until the Super Bowl. So it's not a bad pick whatsoever. I just feel like the Buccaneers are in a prime situation to succeed in this year's postseason. Even with the injuries at the wide receiver position, I feel like they can overcome it. Obviously, with the Eagles in the first round, I feel like that's like, the prime, best matchup possible, best outcome possible. They move on to the second round. They avoid Green Bay in the second round. Maybe Green Bay gets upset. But if all things go as planned, in my opinion, they would play Dallas in the second round. I also feel like Tampa Bay matches up pretty well against Dallas. And if they do meet Green Bay in the NFC Championship, Aaron Rodgers is 1-4 in NFC Championships. History does repeat itself. So I would take Brady over Rodgers in an NFC Championship, hypothetically, if that were the case. I'm taking the Buccaneers to advance to the Super Bowl once again this season.
I think the Packers are just like far and away like the best team in the NFL, at least the NFC. And I mean, the fact that they've done what they've done without all those guys like Jair and Bakhtiari and all those guys, and they're getting some of them back. I guess I haven't really looked into that, but I mean, Brady, when he was on the Patriots, he owned Peyton most of the time, but Peyton got a few from him, and I think Rodgers is going to be able to do that too. So I got the Packers coming out of the NFC. I just think every time I go through my predictions, it's like it's so tough picking games where I'm like, whether it's Bucks and Cowboys or Bills and Chiefs or Titans and Chiefs or some games like that. I'm like, it takes me so long to think about it. But when I have the Packers in a game when I'm picking it, it doesn't take me long. It's like, the Packers are the better team there. Like it's their time. I feel like,
Yeah.
But yeah, go to the AFC. I'll lead off with the AFC. The three teams that I think have the best chance are the Chiefs, the Titans, and the Bills. And I think most of the world is going with the Chiefs, and I don't fault anyone there. I think they are the best team. But I think the Titans are going to be overlooked. And I'm even saying this as a Colts fan. I think people are saying, they're like one of the worst one seeds ever. And it's like, maybe the unhealthy version of the Titans, but they're not the unhealthy version right now. They are getting back to the version that they were earlier in the year when they beat so many good teams, the Rams, the Bills, the Colts, twice actually. The Chiefs. They beat all the best teams in the league almost already. So they've proven that they can do that. And this is what I said earlier in the week is like they were underdogs 2 years ago when they beat I think the Patriots or the Ravens too. They made a big run, and all they had was Derrick Henry and average defense. And then last year, they lost a tough one to the Ravens. I think it was kind of just the Ravens' turn to win a playoff game for once. And I think this year they're going to be overlooked because they have a good defense now. They have Derrick Henry still. They have more weapons at receiver. Not that Julio has been too impressive. And I think they have the coach of the year, in my opinion. I think there's so much going their way, and they're bound to make a run. And I have a Packers-Titans Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I think my preseason prediction was Packers over Chiefs, and for all intents and purposes, I will stay to that. But I think if the Titans were to wind up playing in the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, I'd feel more confident in the Titans. I think if the Titans are going to lose, it's probably going to be that. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think the Titans will be able to beat the Chiefs. I think it's the other matchups where they struggle. I know, like 20 minutes ago, I was just talking down on the Bills' run defense, but the Bills have a good run defense. I could see teams like Cincinnati. I could honestly see New England if their offense is clicking on the ground. Like I could see them putting up enough points to stay with a team like that. And even though I made this video right after Derrick Henry got hurt, when it came out that he'd be back around week 18, I was like, their schedule is not that tough. Like they're gonna be totally fine. Then they went and beat the Rams. This is a really, really good team. Their defense is playing some of their best football, but for all like I can't go against what I believed earlier on in the year, and it's hard. It's like you don't bet against Tom Brady, you don't bet against Patrick Mahomes either, in my opinion. So I'm still going to stick with the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's very hard for me to bet against a team like the Chiefs, especially with how much success they've had over the past 2 years. Obviously, they started off very, very poorly to start off the season. They've got on a hot streak to end off the season. You can argue there's no team hotter than the Chiefs right now. But I think, and I said this a couple weeks ago on our other podcast as well, if there's any year that the Tennessee Titans are going to win the Super Bowl, it's going to be this year. How many more times are they going to be able to control their destiny and get that number 1 seed with obviously the Chiefs set for the near future, the Bills set for the near future, the Patriots set for the near future, the Bengals. I mean, the list goes on. So that's why my pick is going to be the Titans. With the extra rest for Derrick Henry, you're going to get a healthy Derrick Henry coming back for the playoffs. You're also going to give Julio Jones another week of rest. A.J. Brown, 2 receivers who have been banged up. But I think that they are finally getting back to full strength at the right time. And they've beaten some very good teams, even without being at full strength. So I have the Titans coming out of the AFC and a Titans Buccaneers Super Bowl this season.
So we got a Packers Chiefs, a Packers Titans, and a Titans Bucks. Interesting.
You want to do dark horses too, or sleeper teams?
Yeah, we can do some dark horses.
Because I think my dark horse sleeper team, I think, is going to be the winner of the Patriots-Bills game. I have extreme confidence in both of those teams to make a run. So I think whoever wins it, I pick the Patriots, so I'll say Patriots, but I think the winner of that game has a legit chance to make a run.
I think my sleeper team would be the Cincinnati Bengals, just because we obviously just seen them take down the Chiefs. They have a high-powered offense, a good enough defense to keep them in any game. And realistically, if the Bengals take down the Raiders in the second round, they would play them. So I think at that point, the winner of that matchup could definitely take down a Chiefs team. Not saying it would happen, but I definitely feel like it's possible. So I would go with the Bengals as my dark horse team to go all the way.
I think. Well, I'll foreshadow the video. I made my bracket predictions. I'm gonna post it tomorrow. I had the Bills beating the Chiefs, and I wasn't too confident, but it was just I gotta have a dark horse somewhere, and I think the Bills can definitely make a run if they can get past the Patriots. And they probably play the Chiefs second round, as long as the Chiefs can get past the Steelers. But and then like I said earlier, I think on the NFC side, the Cowboys are being overlooked, and I don't know if you'd say that's a dark horse. They're a 3 seed, but nobody's talking about it.
Yes. I think they are being overlooked for sure.
Oh, just how highly the Packers are looked at in the NFC as the best team. I would definitely say that's a dark horse.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I have the Titans Bills championship in the AFC, which is unique. I don't think I've seen anyone else with that. I mean, most people have Chiefs Titans or I've seen some Chiefs-Bills ones too, but I do think the Bills are capable of going that far. I think, like I said earlier, I would never pick the Bengals that far. I mean, like I did say that they're capable of it because when they're hot, they're hot. When they're on, they're on. But I don't think they can string together more than a win. I think people are a little riding them a little too hard right now.
No, I'm going to agree with you. I have them losing in the divisional round, so I'm not picking them to go all the way. But I'm just saying with the tools that they have, especially with how young they are, I would not take them over a team like the Chiefs or the Titans. But the firepower that they do have on offense, they can keep up with any team. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, that duo, that connection is only going to get better. So yeah, I think it's possible. Like you said, I don't think I would pick them to beat any of those teams. I just think that they're capable of stringing together some wins. They're very inconsistent, but if they can consistently, get things work together and stuff like that, then I think it would be possible. But definitely, it's a dark horse for a reason.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into our last little segment. Is we're gonna play one voice memo today, just for the sake of time. But we got a question about the Giants' future and the Giants' future at quarterback. So let's hear it.
Yo, what's up, man? So this is for Lopes, Leeds, and 440 Sports. I know Lopes, Leeds is a Giants fan. I know 440 Sports is ironically known for hating on the New York Giants. So I want to know both of your thoughts on this situation. Giants quarterback situation, it's really not that good. And just overall, the team is arguably the worst team in football right now. Horrible ownership, horrible O-line. We all know with the Giants situation. But I want to know what you guys think the Giants should do at the quarterback situation going into next year. Because in my opinion, I'm not sure if Jones is the guy, but I damn know well there is really not that many better options going into next year than Daniel Jones. The draft really isn't that great. The free agency market, unless you're getting Russell Wilson, which, Russell Wilson's 34 years old, and you'd have to give up a lot of draft capital to get him. So I want to know what you guys think the Giants should do with the quarterback situation going into next season. Thanks.
I'm going to hear from the Giants fan first.
I think I would hand over my Giants fandom card if they took a quarterback with either their first two picks in the draft. It's the worst thing they could do. It's exactly what they did to Daniel Jones 4 years ago. Just put him in a horrible situation. They financially and kind of logically, it makes sense to bring Daniel Jones back. I think he will be back, and I think he'll be playing behind a significantly better offensive line. I like a lot of the offensive line prospects that are coming out. I don't know if they'll go 2 offensive linemen with the first 2 picks. But if I was them, I would, to be honest with you. I don't know if Evan Neal is going to be there for them at 5, but what I could seriously see them doing is trading up to get him at 2, trading with Detroit, because I think Detroit will be happy to get a guy like, I don't know, Derek Stingley or even a guy like Garrett Wilson at 5. I think they'd be totally fine getting him there. But they should, I think, leave Daniel Jones, give him a year behind that line. Same with Saquon Barkley. Unless they can find a trade partner. I think if they could find a trade partner, it'd make more sense. Maybe get more draft capital this year going forward. I don't know. But I think they can't draft a quarterback that early. They trade back and get a quarterback. That's another thing. I still wouldn't really like it. They can't take one at 5. They can't take one at 7. There's no sure thing prospect this year. Keep in mind, they'll also have a very early second-round pick. That's where they could possibly take a quarterback. They definitely shouldn't with those first few picks. The only wild card in this situation, I agree, I don't think Russell Wilson's the answer. The only wild card is Deshaun Watson. I don't know what the deal is with him. I don't know if he'll be able to play next year. But I think if he's able to, the Giants should go after him. I don't think it would take both first-round picks this year to get him, but I think they should get him.
Yeah. If you would have told me before this season that I would be saying give Daniel Jones another year, I would have told you you're crazy. And it's not really because of Daniel Jones. It's more because of the lack of success without him. They were god-awful without him. And I'm not saying he's like the most valuable player on their team, but it's taken them a couple years to learn. I mean, I said 2 years ago, you fix up the damn offensive line. And if you draft a quarterback instead of some O-line, like you said, you're just going to be putting him in a situation to fail. I mean, that's what happened to Trevor Lawrence last year. And I think the difference with that is, Trevor Lawrence is generational, so it's okay to put him in a bad situation when you kind of know like he's going to be your guy. And you don't know that with any of these quarterbacks. Nobody knows how any of these guys are going to pan out. So I think just giving them a year with this current Giants situation is just begging them to fail. And Daniel Jones, I mean, I still don't think he's ever going to be that guy. But I do think maybe if they fix the O-line, you give Saquon a good O-line, and you get an offensive coordinator or head coach that knows how to use the weapons, that ends up being a good situation for Daniel Jones, and maybe he can be at least halfway serviceable in a situation like that. And I view it more as, he's probably not going to be the long-term answer, in my opinion at least, but it's kind of a bridge quarterback to where it's either get a quarterback right now in the draft and ask them like you're begging them to fail, or bridge Daniel Jones, give him another year just to make sure he's not the guy, and then you maybe draft or trade for someone the next year when there's a good situation to put him in.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. I think Daniel Jones has earned at least one more year, especially with the coaching change and stuff like that. Now, my question is for Max, how would you feel if they took a quarterback with one of those 2 first picks and then maybe an offensive lineman or, the best available corner, whatever the case may be, and then they also keep Daniel Jones for another season just to have that rookie quarterback sit behind him?
I think that's the worst thing they could do.
Even if they have him sit for a year?
Yeah. Like they're at 5 and 7, there is so much value along the line. Also guys like Nakobe Dean. There's somebody else I'm forgetting. Shoot. I can't remember who else I was going to say. There's another defensive player who's going to be there probably going to be there in the top 10. I can't remember who it was, but there's going to be so much. Maybe it was Derek Stingley. It's another defensive back. There's so much value that's going to be there for them at 5 and 7. They can't take quarterback. They trade back and take a quarterback. That is a completely different story. But you guys got guys like Kenny. I have Kenny Pickett ranked number 1 right now, at least in terms of quarterbacks for this draft class. Like he is by no means a sure thing. Same with Matt Corral.
This is a weak quarterback class, they would say, for sure.
Reminds me a lot of Daniel Jones' quarterback class, to be honest with you. So they can't do it again. It would be the worst thing to have 2 young quarterbacks on the roster, I think. And
I think I agree with you. I agree with that.
It's a good thing for a rookie quarterback to sit behind a veteran, but you're sitting behind Daniel Jones, not a veteran.
Yeah. And then at some point, fans will say, like, Daniel Jones isn't performing, then they'd want the rookie to come in. So what do you even get a year to sit behind? Yeah, so I agree with you. I 100% agree.
I also think the Giants would be dumb unless it's Brian Flores, would be dumb not to hire an offensive-minded head coach.
100%.
It's been way too long. Joe Judge was a special teams guy. Pat Shurmur was an offensive coordinator, but he was horrible.
I thought he was going to succeed there as well because he was a good coordinator for the Vikings. So
yeah,
he failed over there.
Yeah,
so.
And then honestly, I didn't mind Ben McAdoo. Ben McAdoo just didn't get along with the people in the organization and stuff like that. But they need to hire an offensive line. Daniel Jones has also been in multiple offenses in his however many years he's been in the NFL. They need something to play to his strength because as much as we want to talk about Kadarius Toney and Kenny Galladay's injuries and inconsistency, there's no at some point you have to look to the coaching staff on the fact that both of them have not scored.
Yeah,
that kind of
and I've always been a Daniel Jones hater in a sense. I don't think he's going to be the guy to succeed for New York. But I really changed my mind this year at the end of the season when they literally averaged 8 points in 4 games.
Yeah,
it was terrible, just terrible. They 39 and you're running QB sneaks. You can't make it up. You can't make that kind of stuff up.
Unbelievable. I'm just glad. I don't think Judge was even fired the last time we recorded the podcast. So Judge is gone by this point, but it just needed to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like celebrating a fire, but it was the right thing to do.
Oh yeah, no, it was. Yeah, he deserved it for sure.
Yeah, their end of the year struggles didn't necessarily put me on the Daniel Jones train or anything. Just make me, helps you realize that obvious. I mean, I knew it wasn't just Daniel Jones' O-line and coaching, but it just shows you how bad O-line and coaching was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think an ideal draft for the Giants, maybe if they could get Evan Neal, and then like a Kyle Hamilton or a Stingley or.
I'd like Kyle Hamilton. The only thing is they have, well, if they were to draft a young quarterback, nice, because I think they're gonna have to get rid of James Bradbury. But they have their defensive backs probably the best unit on their team. That's my only issue with drafting one of those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's gonna wrap up the podcast, I think. Make sure. Oh, actually, we can talk about the contest real quick. So we're doing rather than we wanted to do something somewhat creative for like a playoff contest rather than just picking our brackets. I'll let Max explain it because he came up with the idea.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give the group a shout out now. It's called Hedge Better. One of my friends has worked with this company before, and they have a playoff confidence pool, basically saying like you rank your teams based on how confident you are that they're going to win the Super Bowl, and every time they win, you get however many points are assigned to them. So what this contest is doing is basically saying that the strongest team you're going to give the most points to, we're going to put a little bit of a spin on it and treat it like it's golf. So the most confident you are in a team, you're going to give them the lowest number. So like if I think the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl, I'm going to give the Packers 1. And if the Packers win or they move on, they get 1 point. So the lowest score at the end of the contest is going to win. So if you have the Steelers at 14 and they somehow beat the Chiefs, you're screwed.
Yeah, you're getting 14 points slapped on you. But I'm sure all of us will have the Steelers at 14 or down there below. So
yeah, like going through, I'm trying to find mine real quick. Yeah, so for example, like I think I said Packers Titans Super Bowl, so I have Packers and Titans at 1 and 2, even if I think the Chiefs are the better team. And like I think the Raiders are going to win. So anyone who doesn't have the Raiders winning probably has them a lot lower, but I have them up in the top 8 somewhere, since I think they're going to win a game at least. But it's kind of you got to play your cards right. Because it's like based on confidence in one game, but also like the rest of the playoffs, and you have to factor in matchups and stuff like that. There's a lot to it for real. Yeah, I thought that was a cool, creative way. We'll make a few posts on our TikTok about it, but yeah, comment. What do you think about our picks? Comment your own picks and comment your own dark horse teams when we talked about that, but. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back definitely. We think we'll be back Monday or probably Tuesday because of the Monday night. So yeah, we'll probably record on Tuesday next week if we can make that work, since there's a Monday night game that we don't want to just skip that. And I feel like probably a nice recap on a Tuesday and maybe another shorter prediction pod on a Thursday or Friday next week. So hopefully we drop in 2 more next week, but. Make sure to subscribe and drop a thumbs up and share these videos with your friends if you can, to help us get out there more. But thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys later.
Thanks, guys.